Do you ever feel overwhelmed by the ever-changing world of technology? Tech It Out can help make some sense of it all. Breaking down geek speak into street speak, technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman covers consumer technology each week for every listener. Mark tackles the latest news, reviews, and how-tos to help you understand what's hot, what's not, and why.
Hey everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of Tech It Out. This is episode 282. If you're keeping track, hope you're all having a great day so far. And thank you for making Tech It Out a small part of it. Hey, we have many great guests lined up for you today, so I'm going to dispense with the small talk off the top of this show so we can get right to it. Two of our interviews today are loosely tied to Valentine's Day, which is coming up, of course. The first interview in a moment isn't the best news, though. It's about the rise in romance scams. Those predatory fraudsters online who are trying to get women to fall in love with them and then steal their money. Visa will join us and tell us what to watch out for. And be sure to share this info with your family and friends who may be looking for love in all the wrong places. And later on in the show, it's a bit more of a positive spin on Valentine's Day. It's a dating app that's getting popular called Vinally that pairs music lovers up, and not just based on similar musical tastes. We'll learn about that in about 30 minutes from now. And sandwiched between these two interviews is a special guest from General Motors about a new virtual showroom to learn about electric vehicles with a real person to talk with over video. It's super cool. Wait till you hear about it. It's called EV Live. All of this and more on an all-new Tech It Out, powered by ASUS for those in search of incredible. I'll tell you more about ASUS shortly, but let's officially kick off the show with our first interview. With Valentine's Day around the corner, many plan to celebrate their loved ones. But hey, this Hallmark holiday isn't always about roses and chocolates. It could be about deception and fraud. From catfishing to fake dating sites, so-called romance scams are on the rise. To share what's going on and how to protect yourself and perhaps your vulnerable loved ones, we're joined by Dustin White, Chief Risk Data Officer at Visa. Welcome to the show, Dustin. Good to chat with you.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Before we talk about romance scams, as they're collectively referred to, I believe, please tell us a bit about Visa's, and I'll call it significant, investment in fighting fraud over the past few years.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again. And security is core to Visa in many, many ways. And everything that we do really focuses on that trust factor and the 360-degree protection of our consumers, businesses, and the entire ecosystem that operates on our network to move money around the globe. Significance, a good word. Over the last 5 years, the significance of the investment is upwards of $10 billion to make sure that we have the right tools, tech, and capabilities out there to stop fraudsters in their tracks. And that includes combating fraud proactively with cutting edge cybersecurity, advanced intelligence or AI, and some of the advanced data analytics that our teams around the globe produce. So despite the rise in fraud and the increasing sophistication of scammer tactics that I'm sure we're going to talk more about, fraud on our network remains at a historic low at a time where more people are using digital payments in more and more ways. And it's something we're really proud of. And like I started with, it's kind of core to the DNA of who we are.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, I've had a chance and privilege to chat with your colleague, Michael Jabara, VP and Head of Global Fraud Services at Visa, about the billions of dollars, billion with a B, Visa has made over the years in fighting fraud. And it sounds like it's working, which is great. At the same time, I heard romance scams may be on the rise. What are the risks out there today, Dustin?
It is on the rise. So whether you refer to it as catfishing or look at fake dating sites, scams that play on our heartstrings are on the rise. There's been a lot of publication, I think, about this over the last 6 to 12 months, but the FTC and others have indicated that these types of scams are up significantly, almost 80%. And the losses that consumers have reported are to the tune of $500 million in 2021 alone. And I'm sure that number is consistent for 2022. It just hasn't been released yet. So the trend isn't slowing down, right? And I think as consumers continue to adopt new forms of digital payments, folks that look to prey on those folks, bad actors, will continue to attempt to take advantage of them. And the ways they do that are becoming more targeted and sophisticated. There's a whole litany of ways, but eventually what it results in is the scammer will casually convince the target to start to divulge either financial information or invest in things. It could be cryptocurrency or other types of fake websites that point their victims to these landing pages and they continue to put money into it and might even be under the belief that they're making money when in fact they're just draining their own finances into a scammer's bank account.
I hear about these stories often, whether it's, the catfishing stories where they bait somebody into believing they're falling in love with them and then they hit them up for money, or they scam them digitally, like, I don't know, asking them for Google Play gift cards. They often prey on those who are not so tech savvy. They could be elderly. It really does boil my blood. What do you attribute this increase in romance scams? Do you think it's sort of coming out of the pandemic? We were a bit more isolated, or just overall we're spending more time online as a society?
It's probably both, Mark. I do think that our lives, the digital influence and time we spend in our lives accelerated rapidly during the pandemic. That's no surprise to anybody, I don't think. And I think because so much of what we do in the physical world, we now do in the digital world, the notion of cultivating relationships sort of falls into that bucket, right? When you work and study and shop and connect with people you care about, ultimately building relationships, things that happen in those chance interactions in the physical world, they happen digitally. And with more people spending time online and money online, bad actors see that as a target-rich environment. And I think the other piece of it too, like you have to think, during the pandemic, folks that probably weren't as engaged in digital commerce and interactions sort of had to necessarily shift there. So not only do you have more folks there, you've also got folks with like a less sophisticated experience threshold in that environment. And I think, unfortunately, it comes down to how well can you pick up on some of this stuff in communication. Those of us who live our lives in email, which unfortunately I do more often than I'd like, you could sort of pick up on it right away. You see it in a note, you see certain kinds of language patterns, certain types of graphical things, and you like to think, hey, I'm an expert, I know how to spot this stuff. But we've actually done some studies on this. And then one of those was a study called Fraudulese, the language of fraud. And in that study, we found that 73%, that's a big number, of consumers who think they're confident about recognizing scams often miss some of the red flags. And when you compound that with a whole bunch of folks that are in the environment kind of for the first time or newly engaged in digital commerce and digital interactions, you can only imagine that number goes a lot higher. And on the back end of that, so you got the experience level, but the rise in digital payments has now transformed money movement, which makes it easier and faster and more seamless to move money around. And there's a whole bunch of different channels and methods and ways to do that. And that just has created a bit of a perfect storm for this particular scam.
And speaking of which, what's also particularly scary about the numbers you provided, romance scams being up nearly 80% year over year, is that that's only among those who reported the crime to authorities. It's likely a much bigger number than that, I would assume, because people were too embarrassed to report them falling victim to the authorities. So it's probably even a worse problem than we think. We are chatting with Dustin White. He's Chief Risk Data Officer at Visa, a company that has invested billions over the years in fighting fraud. Today, we're chatting about the different flavors of romance scams and how to protect yourself from these predatory and malicious types out there over the internet. So with that in mind then, Dustin, what can we do to fight back other than spread awareness, with our loved ones? How do we spot these fraudsters before becoming a victim?
Well, I think experience certainly plays a role, right? The more that folks interact and engage online, the notion of disingenuous versus authentic communication comes into play. I think there's a few things. You could be aware of what you post online, right? Anything you put out there, if fraudsters are picking up pieces about you as a person, they'll go as far as they can into various sites and places to learn what they can.
You mean like social media, like saying, hey, sucks being single around this time of year, like that kind of thing?
Yeah, you got it exactly right.
Okay.
Right? I mean, someone could on LinkedIn see that I work for Visa. On Facebook, maybe they can find out that I've got kids and things like that, and they start to piece this persona together to make their attack more personalized.
It's so calculated.
In addition to being aware of your online footprint, it's important that you also sort of put yourself on the offensive and do your due diligence. When someone new is trying to connect with you that you've not met in the physical world, see what you can learn about them. Too perfect is really often not a reality, and you can pick up on some of that pretty quickly. And I think, just noticing the types of behavior, there are reasons for people to reach out to you that you don't know. Like, for example, if you're selling something on Facebook Marketplace, that happens all the time. But it's what they ask for in return, right? If the things that they ask for in return are personal details or financial information, inappropriate great photos. Anything that you could give them that could be weaponized against you, I mean, that's a big one. And probably the biggest red flag, don't send money to someone if you've only communicated with them online. I would jokingly add, like, wait till you're in a long-term relationship or married, your spouse or partner will find ways to take all of your money anyway. You don't need to send it to someone you haven't met.
That's a good one.
Yeah, awareness is a big part of it. As you alluded to, right? The educational components are really important, especially for those who might be in the elderly population that are engaging in digital commerce in ways they haven't historically. The scams aren't just limited to romance scams, right? There's other things that target seniors in particular, including things like healthcare insurance fraud, counterfeit prescription drugs, reverse mortgage scams even. So, stressing to your friends, family, people you care about, no matter what age, that they should be thoughtful about that. Lock your devices, no red flags, share with care, all these things that people can do when they are releasing or engaging online. Right. The things that you put down into the internet and digital platforms, they're there for good. And the thing, you should be very thoughtful about the types of details you share, especially early on in a relationship.
All great advice, Dustin. And finally, the best website to learn more about Visa's efforts in fighting back against fraud?
Visa.com.
All right, Visa.com. I'll even add Visa.com/security has a lot of blog posts and articles about Visa's efforts. Thanks so much for your time, Dustin. Great to chat with you. Very informative.
Absolutely. Thanks again for having me, Mark.
Coming up on Tech It Out, we're going to chat with General Motors about this really cool virtual showroom called EV Live. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want. Find the Tech It Out podcast at iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, welcome back to Tech It Out, powered by ASUS for those in search of incredible. ASUS creates technology for today and tomorrow's smart life, and that includes its line of award-winning laptops and desktops, accessories like monitors, keyboards, and mice, mobile tech, tablets, smartphones, and much more. For those in search of incredible, visit asus.com/US/radio for more info. That's asus.com/US/radio. We chatted with Visa earlier about romance scams and what to look out for, and to share that info with family and friends who may be looking for love in all the wrong places. But coming up in a few minutes from now, we're going to chat about something a bit more positive, a dating app called Vinally that connects people over music. That's coming up in a few minutes to continue our Valentine's Day theme. But first, we have a special guest from GM to chat with us about electric vehicles. Listeners of my show know I'm super excited about the intersection of technology and the automotive space. And if you're a company like General Motors, the two are very much intertwined. We're going to learn right now about a brand new initiative called EV Live. It's an electric vehicle education tool. And to tell us all about it, I'm thrilled to have back onto the show Hoss Hassani, GM's VP of EV Ecosystem. Welcome back to the show, Hoss. Good to chat with you again.
Thanks, Mark. Likewise. Great to be here.
Sure. Now, hey, before we talk about EV Live, why is technology an important pillar to GM, to General Motors?
Well, I mean, technology has been core to our DNA, and innovation as an extension of that has been core to our DNA since our inception. And the last century of innovations in the auto industry, a lot of them trace back to innovations that General Motors first brought to the market, whether it's, going further back, things like crash test dummies, or maybe a more recent memory, OnStar, and bringing telematics to vehicles. And what OnStar has been able to enable, certainly in our vehicles, but that have in some way been mimicked across. So it's really important for a company like General Motors. Technology is in the innovation that springs from that. When you're trying to reach as expansive an audience as we are, bringing technologies that are really purposeful, but also affordable and accessible and approachable. We've got vehicles from Chevrolet to Cadillac and everything in between. So for us, technology really spans that gamut.
Even Buick. I'm going to be seeing the Buick concept car at an upcoming automotive show. Yes, Wildcat. Thanks, Hoss. That's it. I'll see it in a week and change. All of the brands underneath the GM banner seem to embrace technology in a big way. Chevrolet and Cadillac, of course, do come to mind, as well as GMC and Buick. So look, GM's commitment isn't just about electrification, which is in the news a lot these days, but automation as well. You hinted at Super Cruise. It's a fantastic technology. Before we talk about EV Live, can you just give our listeners a bit of a Super Cruise 101?
Yeah, so Super Cruise, I've had the privilege of driving vehicles with Super Cruise for a couple of years now, since we introduced the technology on the Cadillac CT6 a few years back.
That's my vehicle, by the way. That's what I drive.
Nice. I'm telling you, every time I see one on the road, I like remember fondly my commutes between Toronto and Detroit with a Super Cruise equipped Cadillac. And I have to tell you, it is hands down the best autonomous driving technology. We use the term autonomous somewhat colloquially in that context. But it really was the first system that allows for fully hands-free driving on highways. You know, you're not tapping the steering wheel every couple minutes or couple seconds and stuff. It's full-on autonomy when you're driving on highways. Now, of course, you have to be paying attention to the road. We've got a camera sensor and sensors that are checking out your attention on the roadway. But, you know, if you're in the driver's seat, your hands are off the wheel. And it makes such, I mean, obviously there's some certain safety benefits to having that technology, but there are real physiological benefits when you've experienced, particularly in my use case, a 4-hour drive where, you know, most of that Toronto-Detroit corridor is highway driving, and Super Cruise was active for almost the entirety of that drive. It makes a real difference to you physiologically when you get to your destination.
You feel more refreshed.
Absolutely.
So just again, in plain English, when Super Cruise is enabled on supported vehicles and you're on a highway, freeway, many hundreds of thousands of miles supported in North America, your car is essentially driving for you. Your hands could be off the wheel, but your eyes need to be on the road just in case. And it curves along with the lane. So you stay in your lane. It accelerates or decelerates based on the traffic around you. And it can even change lanes for you, whether you want to signal and change lanes, or depending on the model, you can let Super Cruise determine which lane to change into and when it's the right time. It feels really safe. I've got a video of me on YouTube, and my daughter was recording me, and I'm excited about my next vehicle, the Cadillac Lyriq, which no doubt will have this technology. So thanks for that, Hass. Without further ado, let's now talk EV Live, which is why I wanted to invite you onto the program. At a high level, what is EV Live?
So EV Live is our on-demand virtual EV education platform, and customers or anybody really can go to evlive.gm.com. And what we've done is we've purpose-built a studio to educate people on electric vehicles. We're not giving any sort of, you know, sales pitch. It's not about selling a specific model of EV in that studio. It's about helping people understand what an electric vehicle is, how it can fit in your lifestyle, how is it different than a gasoline-powered vehicle. And we're going to break down, you know, concepts like charging and the battery and cost of ownership, the range, the types of models that are out there on the road today. So it's really about getting people over the hurdle of considering an electric vehicle. But as often happens when you create a platform like this, we're finding other use cases emerging and other types of people calling in to EV Live, which is pretty interesting in and of itself.
You mean non-GM customers?
Well, yeah, we're getting owners of our competitors who have recently purchased an EV.
Right.
We'll leave them nameless for now, but some of the popular other EVs out there who are calling our EV specialists, because we have real humans. These aren't avatars or bots or anything like that. We've got real EV specialists in this purpose-built studio having video conversations, one-way video conversations. So the caller can see us. We can't see them.
Apologies, Haas. We're just going to put a pin in that for a moment. We're going to take a short break, and when we return, continue chatting about EV Live. We'll be right back.
Want to follow Mark? Google him. Mark with a C and Saltzman with a Z. Breaking down geek speak into street speak. This is Tech It Out. Tech It Out with technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back to Tech It Out. We're chatting with Hoss Hassani. He is General Motors VP of EV Ecosystem. We're talking about EV Live, which is, for lack of a better explanation, a digital showroom of sorts where you can virtually kick the tires of an electric vehicle and talk with a real person about EVs and what they're all about, ask questions, maybe even voice any concerns that you've got. And speaking of which, I'm going to ask you about myths in a moment, EV myths, which is something I've written about. But I had to cut you off earlier to take a short break, but you were telling us that even non-GM customers were calling EV Live, and you were fine with that. Please continue your thought.
Yeah. So we're getting calls from people who've recently purchased another EV. They have some questions about public charging, or they're going on their first road trip and they haven't been able to easily get information from the company they purchased from. So they're calling, they're discovering EV Live. And honestly, we love taking those questions as well, because, in a moment of anxiety and need, who answered their question? General Motors. So if they're talking up EVs or looking at a second EV in their household or down the line, we think that interaction we had with them is going to make an impression. But of course, we're getting a lot of other calls. We're getting calls from dealers, which was always intended. We're getting calls from the curious. We're getting calls from cynics, people who want to call and sort of vent a bit and find that electric vehicles are not a suitable sort of vehicle family. So we're convincing a lot of them who are coming in even with doubts.
So I was going to ask you about the kind of feedback you're getting since you soft launch EV Live last year. Can you walk us through how it works? So you said the website is evlive.gm.com. So it's not an app, it's a website, but you can access it on a phone or a tablet as well.
Any internet connected device. It's completely free. It's on demand. You can call in and speak with somebody live right away if we're available. Otherwise, you can schedule an appointment for when it's convenient.
And is there certain hours that you're open? Because people may be working during the day.
So our hours, Monday to Thursday, we're open 9 a.m. to midnight Eastern time. On Fridays, we're 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern time. And Saturday to Sunday, we're open 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern time. We made some adjustments since we soft launched, just based on what we saw as demand patterns. And we'll continue to make adjustments as we need to. But those are the hours right now. So somebody call, have an on-demand session, or they can schedule an appointment for when it's convenient for them.
Hass, we're chatting with Hoss Hassani from General Motors. You said earlier that there are some skeptics who call in. With that in mind, assuming people have questions about EVs, maybe they've assumed things like range anxiety that they were told they were going to have and all that. Talk to us about some of those that are tied to EVs.
Yeah, a lot of questions that we get really fall into these 5 categories of there's not a model that's right for me. And of course, with the vehicles we're introducing, like the Equinox and like the most popular vehicle category in the industry, we kind of address those pretty quickly. We get a lot of questions about range, obviously. We know that 300 miles is like the tipping point for people to consider, and all of our Ultium-based EVs that we're introducing this year, next year, are over 300 miles. Lyriq at 312, Hummer at 350, Silverado's model of over 400 miles. So we kind of nailed that.
And Ultium is it's the battery platform that powers a lot of your newer EVs, right? Okay.
It's our electric propulsion system, which customers can also find out about if they call into the EV Live studio. We've got a lot of questions, as you can imagine, about charging, home charging, public charging, the cost of charging, where I charge, how do I charge, whose charger can I use? Tons of questions about charging. And as I said, we built the studio. We've got a home charging zone. We've got a public charging zone. So the physical studio itself helps us in the education with customers. We do get a lot of questions about batteries in general, right? Like, how long does a battery last? What happens if I get into an accident or need to repair it or service it and whatever? We get a lot of questions about that. And then the 5th area really falls in the category of sustainability, recyclability, a lot of misconceptions about batteries ending up in landfills and so forth, which is just factually incorrect. We recycle all of the batteries or find second uses for all of the batteries in our EVs. We're unlocking a new business called GM Energy, which is just going to provide more uses for batteries once they've outlived their usefulness in a car, which is going to be over a decade. I mean, in many cases, the battery will outlast the vehicle itself.
Well, that's good to know. That's actually answering some of the things that I didn't even know about. So thanks for that, Hass. Now, before we wrap up, what EVs in the GM family are you most excited about? I'm going to press you on that. As I mentioned, I'm on the reservation list for the Cadillac Lyriq all-wheel drive, but the Chevy Silverado EV is also looking pretty sweet with, as you said, over 400 miles or up to 640 kilometers on a single charge. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have kids, so I never had to answer the question, which of my kids do I is my favorite. So I guess closest for me is which of our vehicles is going to be, it's just too hard to choose, Mark. I've had a privilege of being able to, bounce around different cars depending on where I'm going and shorter trips, longer trips, and all the rest. I got to tell you, the Silverado is phenomenal because it's so unexpected and it's going to be such a just incredible truck, as we've already demonstrated in our history with trucks. But at the flip side, getting an Equinox in the heart of the market, really excited. I got a lot of friends and family who are interested in that product. The hand-built Celeste stick, the other end of the spectrum, really going toe-to-toe with Rolls and Bentley and so forth. Pretty excited about. So, and the Lyriq, I had the chance to drive the Lyriq and the Hummer back to back, and it's just a treat driving these vehicles. I think the point is, whatever whatever stirs you, whatever you need in your life as a vehicle category or whatever excites you, driving an EV is really going to transform that experience for you. And chances are there's a vehicle in the GM portfolio for you if you're looking at making the switch.
Awesome. And then finally, the website once again, Hass?
evlive.gm.com.
All right, evlive.gm.com. Our guest has been Hoss Hassani. Thanks so much for your time, Hoss. Great to chat with you. Thanks for carving out some time with us.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Take care.
I didn't say it to him this time, but I always tease Hoss that he's always the sharpest dressed man in the room. Just Google him, Hoss Hassani, General Motors. He is a super nice guy and always dressed to the nines. Got to find out where he buys his suits. All right, but I digress. You're listening to Tech It Out. Hope you're enjoying this show. And speaking of Googling and being online, if you're on social media, I'm going to spell my name in a moment. I'd love to hear from you. If you have suggestions for upcoming guests or topics, you have tech questions. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and TikTok. I post videos quite a bit as well, and some tech tips of the day that I think you can use. I link to articles that I write with AARP and Costco Connection Magazine and several others. So it's Mark Saltzman, MarkSaltzman, Mark Saltzman. And I'm on all those platforms if you want to reach out and say hi. Love hearing from Tech It Out listeners. Speaking of tips, people seem to really like the one that I showed last week on a video on social media where there's a secret back button on iPhones. It's that logo, that Apple logo. You can double tap or triple tap for it to do something like turn on a flashlight or take a screen grab or launch your favorite app, that kind of thing. So those are the kinds of videos that I post on social media. Once again, it's Mark with a C and Saltzman with a Z. We'll be right back with more Tech It Out when we chat with the dating app Vinally. If you're looking for a special someone, it might be music to your ears. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Breaking down geek speak into street speak. Tech It Out, hosted by Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Tech It Out. With Valentine's Day coming up, it's a good reminder for those who are single right now and maybe want to change that there are new ways to look for love. And hey, science and technology can play a role here as well. It's about music compatibility. That's what we're going to learn about right now with the matchmaking app Vinally with its founder, Rachel Van Nortwick. Thank you, Rachel, for joining us today. I love the name of the app, by the way.
Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you for having me.
All right. So it's called Vinally. At a high level, what's it all about?
So the name, it's a sort of a play off of vinyl, of course, and finally, sort of meaning if you're a music fan, you can finally find your match with this app. So I'm a huge lifelong music fan, serial concert goer, and I realized, several years ago that there wasn't an app that matched based on music. And I saw a lot of my friends and family struggling on the traditional dating apps, and music was super important to them. So I created Vinally with the idea that we would be data forward, meaning unlike some of the other traditional apps, which are more superficial, I wanted Vinally to really be about matching through your music DNA. So essentially just putting your music self out there in an effort to drive real authentic matches based on music.
I saw on the website for Vinally that this is science-based technology. So can you elaborate on that? I guess those who like the same music are perhaps a compatible match?
Well, in terms of the science, what's interesting about Vinally and our mission is that music has been proven to have various positive effects on the brain. Mm-hmm. So as it relates to connections, music, when someone is listening to the music that they love, that positive sensation is heightened in sharing that with someone else. There's a lot of academic research on this, scientific research on this. And, music also certainly has been known to heal people. Generally speaking, listening to music can, increase dopamine, lower cortisol. So it's just, music in itself is a feel-good place for many of us. And then if you can find somebody to share it with, it doesn't even need to be, the exact same music that you're into. It can have positive effects for both people.
Could you explain then how it works? Are you listening to music on the app as you're looking for a date or potential love interest? Or do you fill out a form that basically says, hey, I like this kind of music or this particular artist. I'm a Taylor Swift fan or I love reggae, whatever.
So with Vinally, we have two options. You can sync your Spotify streaming history and then answer a few questions about the role music plays in your life and what's important to you. We have matches that we produce that way. Or if you prefer, let's say you use a bunch of streaming services, or if you're just, you just collect vinyl, you can create your profile through Vinally. We have a proprietary profile generator, and same thing. You'll also answer a few questions about, the role music plays in your life. Either way, we present you with all of the matches that we think you'd be compatible with based on our algorithm. Everything at Vinally is music based. So, we order the matches for you from high volume to low volume. We, you can push play on people and shuffle, things like that. There's no swiping. From there, if you come across somebody whose profile is interesting, you can click into them and listen to songs on their playlist. You can see, their first concert, last concert, the artists that they like, all of those things before actually deciding to push play on them.
All right. So it's not like Tinder or other apps where you're swiping left or right to say that you're interested in a potential match. This is more about exploring those who were sort of picked by the data behind Vinally to suggest they may be a match. And so you can then have a deeper dive and listen to their playlist and read what music means to them, what concert they last attended. They just saw Billy Joel at MSG, that kind of thing. And that's where you reach out if you're interested, and then you hope to hear back.
Yeah. So you can send, a chat message to someone that you're interested in, and we provide conversation starters in the app. So, they're all music based, and they're actually pulling variable data from, the matches profile so that you actually, come across like, you've spent some time looking at their profile. And then, you can chat for free. I should mention the app is free. You can actually search, suggest, and buy concert tickets all within the chat as well. So we try to take you kind of from first interest all the way through first date.
Oh, okay. Awesome. And is Vinally an app only, or is it a website as well?
No, it's just an app, a mobile app that's available on iOS and Android. We don't have, a web app or a web version.
Got it. All right. And speaking of which, at one point, Rachel, I believe a Spotify account was required to use Vinally, but that's no longer the case, right?
So yes, when the app first launched, that was the way that we were able to, get your streaming data to be able to, then have our algorithm do the work and create matches. But, we received a lot of feedback that Spotify may not be the primary, music service provider for someone. Mm-hmm. They may also be streaming music for, their kids, or they may be, we do get this one a lot. Like, hey, I was in this interesting phase where I was listening to all this music, but I don't think it represents me. And I want to be able to, curate my playlist a little bit better. So, what's nice about the Spotify sync, it's super quick. And you also benefit from, our app showing you a bunch of the other like metadata behind the music you're listening to on Spotify. So you can find out like all of the genres that you like and the subgenres. We call them jams, but I mean, it's super cool. It's almost like going through a little bit of a music 23andMe, and you can learn about yourself. But the great thing about signing up through email and going through a profile generator is that anybody that's a music fan can jump on and create a profile in seconds. Similarly, create a playlist, and you can actually edit the playlist over and over through that route. So 2 different ways to sign up for Vinally, both really fast and both getting at music and what's important to you.
Okay, I like that. More with Vinally when we return, this dating app that focuses on music. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Follow Mark Saltzman on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Listen to Check It Out whenever you want.
We are chatting with Rachel Van Nortwick. She is the founder of Vinally, which fuses vinyl or music appreciation with finally being able to meet someone based on either similar tastes or something else about them that resonates with you musically. You mentioned it was free, or at least the initial chat over the platform, over the app. Is there any paid element? And if not, how does Vinally make money?
Sure. So all of it's free. There's not an in-app purchase, or there's not currently a download cost as well. So it's free. We started the app. We launched the app on iOS October 2019, which was right before the pandemic. It just seemed the right thing to do to make the app free, especially because people couldn't meet anybody in person.
Sure.
Really, dating apps were the only way. And we didn't want to create a barrier. And we were, and still are in growth mode. So for us, that's made sense. In terms of, the app making money, we have some differentiation from other apps in that, Vinally is also a community of music fans. For that community, they're interested in learning about new artists, tours, and merch, and buying tickets and all of those things. So Vinally is working on strategic partnerships with promoters and labels and venues to try to drive, actually like a nice kind of flywheel for both of, our users as well as partners in the music space to, just continue to find connections through music and ultimately help sell more single tickets, right? So that's partners in the music industry struggle with. It's like, how do we get, two music fans who don't necessarily want to go to a concert alone to find each other and buy tickets and go. So it's very difficult when you have single tickets to move them. So that's what we're hoping to achieve.
That's really neat. And speaking of which, you called yourself a serial concert goer. I like that. But yes. I also read that you believe concerts are getting weird, quote unquote. How so?
I wrote a blog article where, this was a personal observation, and it is based off of, having gone to about, 500 concerts, in that, people are forgetting why they bought tickets to the concert in the first place, or at least what I just talked about earlier, just the power of music to make you feel good and to help you connect with other people. Like, that's ultimately why you buy tickets. And so what I think, we've gone a little sideways is that we get to concerts and we either overcomplicate like the logistics, like if you're at a festival trying to hit every single artist, which is impossible. And so then therefore you're kind of like stressed out and you're not like focused on just like being in the moment with the music, or you are busy trying to capture the concert, right? So you're just like constantly on social media, constantly on your phone, and you're actually like missing out. Like, it's not, you think that maybe you're creating memories for later, but you're supposed to be there creating that memory now. And that's going to have a lot more of a positive effect on you in the long run than sharing it on social. Or let's be honest, most of us don't actually go back and watch, the videos and stuff from concerts.
Fair.
So I just want people to really enjoy this moment that, you've paid a lot for, especially today, like just the demand on tickets and the pricing, and enjoy it. Music is therapy. It's like free therapy. Yeah, it's just about being present. And I think we've gotten a little bit away from that.
All right. So as we wrap up, Rachel, how do we get going with Vinally? Simply just download the app and set up an account?
Exactly. Yes. So we're available, in the US and Canadian app stores. You can download the app, upload some photos, and start chatting today. If you want to try to meet somebody for festival season, which is fast approaching, or just, a concert buddy, even to just check out some music with, you can do that. And, we love feedback. So definitely, if you have an experience with the app you'd like to share, feel free to reach out to us.
Awesome. All right. So I'm going to spell it out. It's Vinally. If those who are not driving want to jot this down, it's VINY LLY. So like vinyl with an extra LY at the end. Thank you so much for your time, Rachel. Great to chat with you.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for tuning into Tech It Out this hour. I hope you enjoyed the program. I also want to thank ASUS, our title sponsor. ASUS creates technology for today and tomorrow's smart life. I'm actually recording this show on an ASUS ZenBook Flip S laptop. It's a couple of years old. I think it's 4 years old. And I've put it through the paces, man. I've been traveling with this thing and it keeps going. It's a great, reliable laptop. Learn more at asus.com. And speaking of computers, I also want to give a shout out to SanDisk and Western Digital, a couple of brands that I rely on to back up my information nightly. I have my computer set up that I think it's like 2 or 3 in the morning. It automatically backs up a copy of everything to this offline drive. One of them is a hard drive, a traditional hard drive, but it's like 14 terabytes, so huge. I'm a digital pack rat. And I also have an SSD. It's a solid state drive with no moving parts. It's smaller. It's kind of like flash memory that's in your smartphone. And I back that up as well. It's more rugged, more durable, more portable. Doesn't require power. It takes it from the computer itself. But it's always important to have a good, reliable backup. I leverage both the cloud as well as local offline storage, and I always trust Western Digital and SanDisk. All right. Thank you again for tuning in to Tech It Out. Have a fantastic week ahead, and I look forward to catching up with you next weekend for another episode of Tech It Out. Be well. Bye-bye for now.